All right. So, of course, I'm Sylvan Finger, and thank you for joining me today for a class on professional networking and the basic life skills course here in Willows. I know when I was putting this together, people were wanting some kind of presentation on uh, job searching and write a resume, um, building relationships, and perhaps even wanting to know how to ask for a raise. And so I'll try to include all those things. I'm realizing in my notes I haven't um, included every single detail, but this will be a good start. So this basic job searching. I guess if someone were to click on this video or ask, how do I find work? What I find interesting is uh, when I try to help someone else find work over the summer, that just by doing a simple Google search of, um, say, looking for work in a warehouse, Google will go ahead and just list all the job listings in your area of that might relate to working in a warehouse, which is quite interesting because I remember before that you had to go and find some either hiring agency or go outside your door and start walking and talking to businesses and see what you could find. But Google's got it down so advanced that again they'll just list all the works on your jobs in your area. And of course, if you're not looking for somewhere here in Corning, you can type in where you are looking for work and just see what's available over there. It's just fascinating what you can do before you even walk outside the house. And so with that, if you're looking for work, that'd be my first step. But I mean, I'd hope before that, you'd want to ask yourself, well, if you want a job, oh, I have here, the question is, but what job do you hope to have? And so that's always an interesting question because I know some people, the work they find is because they had a friend that found it for them, or they just applied some paperwork and they got a job, or um, or they had an idea of what they wanted to do, and they just kept figuring out how to do it, even though no one in their own family or friends had that job. And so, I guess the question from that would be, how did that person get there? Or how is that even possible? Is it just dumb luck? Is it because the person was smart enough? They had a high IQ? Um, it's it's quite an interesting question. And so the three comments I have here to ask yourself or ask anyone who's looking for work, if money wasn't an issue, what would you do? So like that'd be education or moving to a different location. What would you do? And, correct. Correct. Um, and likewise, what would you enjoy doing in your spare time? That was another question here. So I know sometimes when you looking for work, you can think of, well, this is what I've seen before, but you can ask yourself, what do you yourself enjoying doing? Not what retail stores do you pass by? What do you? Maybe you could ask which one do you enjoy shopping at, and then find work in that type of industry, whether it's retail or the professional ends of where they make those things, where those resources are involved. But there's, I think if someone asks those questions, they might have a better idea of what they want to do. And also the last question I have here is, what do your friends enjoy doing? Because overall, when you go to a job, you're gonna want to have a job where you're around, where you feel like you're around friends. For if you're around people who you don't really care for, well, then even if you love the type of work you're doing, it's going to be pretty boring work, and you're not going to enjoy it. So hopefully, with those combination of things, you actually find something to enjoy. And again, it can depend on location too. Maybe you like helping people, but you find you like helping people that live in Texas instead of California or something like that. There's, you're like, well, it's both helping people, but maybe just the idea of what a good life would be like, people you'd rather have in Texas rather than California or in South Africa. I don't know. But it, again, the point is, what do you want to do? Um, and I know there's like tests you can take for that. I actually did find one website that would do that in this area, and I'm sure there's other places online you can ask too. But overall, I think I know for me, when I found work, it wasn't so much because of what the test told me. It was because of the things I found doing and with the people I was already in a community with, uh, where they gave me input of where my best skills would be placed. So um, again, it's not bad and my household, but something tells me you already know what you enjoy doing. It's just it's just the person may or may not have found it yet. Some people never find work that they enjoy, which is unfortunate. But that's why I'm putting this class together. So uh, whether they have a job or not, I hope that whatever work you do enjoy doing. And so the next thing I have on here is that depending on the kind of job you will and want to do will depend on how you will seek out the job. And so that's basically looking for work in the contracting world, say painting houses, is going to be different than being, say, working in office work or becoming a doctor. Like you don't go to Kaiser and say, do you have a medical job for me? Well, that's not gonna usually pan out too well. They might have some kind of minimum wage job that doesn't require a nursing or doctor's education, but you're probably not gonna get into medical that way. That's something you'd actually have to go to school for, obviously. So once you know the kind of job you want to work for, then you can figure out which way to do it. Um, if you ask me, the best way to find out what kind of job you're looking for is if you know someone that's already doing that kind of work, you can ask them how they got there. You could find one way to contact them, whether phone call, that's always my favorite, but it seems to be a little bit a taboo now. It's almost like knocking on someone's door. They'd rather receive a text message or I want to say that's the one, a text message or being messaged through some app of some sort of uh, wanting to know the kind of about more who they are and what they do. So that I mean that's my point there. So if you're looking for a type of work and you know someone how to do it, you can ask them how they got there. If you don't know how someone that has got that job, you can try looking locally, seeing if there is someone going through business listings, doing a Google search of the kind of job in your area, of the job you're looking for, and ask them, hey, I really like this work. I'm considering of doing it. Whether you need a degree or not, you can ask, can I just shadow what you do and learn from you and perhaps.
If you're able to start at a lower level and then your confidence.
Correct. Correct. And so like say you want like contracting, working in building homes, just general contractor, you don't necessarily have to start out as the independent licensed contractor to get the work. You a lot of times just work for someone else and then work over time. But yeah, or I imagine with any business, usually someone needs a helper of some kind, and so you just can even ask, is there a way I could even help you in doing your job, making deliveries or again working for bigger jobs where you could use some extra help. Be interested. I know some things can make things difficult, like especially working laws. Especially if you're working like wanted to shadow a lawyer, that there might be some liability in what you know and what you hear and all that. But at the same time, I'm sure just such as sitting in a courtroom or talking to or even just taking the guy out for uh, a dinner of some kind to learn more about his job and how he knew that's the kind of work he wanted to do and how to get there. I'm sure they'd be really might be interested to give your advice. And if not, you could always go on to another person and who might be gracious enough to help you out. Any questions there? I think, yeah.
That's how my wife found work.
So that's where I'm going to next. So sometimes you just listening to people's stories, you can kind of help figure out how a person kind of finds their way for work. As for me, I guess it all happened at a different stage. The first time I was looking for work before even my senior year of high school started, but I didn't find any. Kind of didn't really exactly know how. But then the school the following year did have a class available to help actually students find work. And it was through that class I actually found a retail job. It was actually Baskin Robbins. So I was working at an ice cream shop. And so I just did that for a year. And then after that, I looked for somewhere else. And as I was going to college, after my senior year in high school, I was going to college in the same area. I didn't leave my parents' place, still looking for part-time work as I'm going to school. And I just ended up working in a candy store. So I went from one sweet job to another. And I pretty much went there till I was done with that school and then went to another one. And by that time, I already kind of knew how to find work, especially in retail. So I just applied to a bunch of different places, and overall, I ended up being a bagger at a grocery store as I went to another college. And that pretty much was my pattern. And went to another school, so finally went for my graduate work and found another grocery store to work at. Instead of being a bagger, I was working in the fish department. But nonetheless, it was still work. And I found once you get into a type of work, it's actually pretty easy to find the similar work somewhere else. All these places technically deal with food. You may not really think of candy as food, but at the same time, you hope the person knows how to handle it like food so that when they do eat it, it doesn't go, it's not bad, it's not stale, it wasn't handled poorly. So no melted chocolate, no no bugs got into the food, things like that. Keeping your hands clean. Just simple things, but apparently if someone already knows how to deal with that stuff, then
Confection,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all you want. All you want was the ones that were like, weren't perfect.
Right, the imperfect things you're going to be thrown away anyways. Yeah. So, yeah, no, we're going with candy and food. It's always, you can have some fun stories for sure. There are some of the most fun jobs, but of course you don't necessarily get paid pretty well for those fun jobs either. So, how I ended up, so I did mention I went to college and I found other jobs besides this one. So I kind of went to school to try to figure out what kind of work I wanted to do because when I graduated high school, I really didn't have a clue. I know I had a family member suggest who had a connection to Microsoft said I'd work for them, and I wasn't super excited about it. I think a lot of times Microsoft software just confused me. Maybe if I sat down with it a little bit more, who knows? Maybe would have been a software programmer today. But overall, I ended up getting into pastoral work is because when I took a semester off of school, as I really wasn't getting anywhere, I found myself spending all my spare time actually doing church work. And so I know my parents were thinking I probably should find more of a job, but in some ways I was because I was doing the things I loved. And by doing those things, the people I was working around say, you know what, if you enjoy church work so much, maybe you just get the degree to go get it. Now, I wasn't excited about getting a master's degree in the first place because that was, so yeah, bachelor's is 4 years and then master's degree is another 4 years. So you got 8 years of school. I really wasn't too far into my bachelor's in terms of the general ed I was doing. So I had to basically kind of start over after doing some trade school work, which is overall I was told not bad because then if the master's degree falls apart for some reason, then you always have a trade school to go to. You have a 2-year trade under your belt. But at the same time, I think if I were to find someone in that trade and hang out with them, actually see what kind of work they do, because that work you can, especially if you're in school for it, I would have probably known, maybe I could find something else to be a little more excited about. It wasn't that I wasn't excited about it. I mean, I could do drafting work all day. Even the people in the class recognized designing things was not an issue for me, but feeling like a friend in the community never really kicked in. And part of it, you could say, was the economy. Because in 2006, economy was great. You could find pretty much work anywhere. And in 2008, civil engineering was actually one of the first industries to crash. People weren't making any money. And I could tell by the end of my training that if the contractors, the engineers aren't finding enough work, that means I'm not going to be finding work, and which means what do I go back to school for? And so when I went back to school, overall, I learned I got to find something I enjoy, not only in the classroom, but out in the real world. And so eventually I was encouraged to be a pastor, and here I still am 7 years later. So, so that was what it was for me. I asked my wife, how did she find work? I know her story a little bit. I know she's had few jobs in between, but for her, when she was going to college to be a teacher. So I think she liked helping people in that way, helping them teach. But and as she was going to school, she was a part of college programs, so college Christian programs. So like, I think Youth for Christ is one of them. I should know this one. But basically, for me, the Christian group I was a part of when I was in college, in younger college, my community school was correct. Correct. And so when we were dating, we both found out we liked ministry work. But her eHarmony profile didn't explicitly state so, but we found that out as time went on, and so it's like, oh great, do people enjoy ministry work? I hope you marry that someone too who you would enjoy working with, or you're hopeful for what they do. So anyways, so as she was teaching, she was doing that, but I guess she didn't go directly into the schools. She ended up doing a program called Young Life. And how she found out about Young Life is that as she was looking for work and talking to our Christian friends, they suggested, hey, you know what, you seem to enjoy being a leader for youth. And here's a program that will help you, that's actually looking for full-time workers for ministry. So why don't you just try it out and see what happens? And so she worked for Young Life for 7 years. So she went on with that, and then unfortunately she had to leave because as Young Life is in different areas, but her area seemed to be crumbling apart, and so she just pretty much had to leave um, before she got caught up in the shenanigans that her group was doing. So I know ministry is supposed to be perfect in all ways and shapes and forms, but people are also broken in all ways and shapes and forms. And so, um, unfortunately, tragic things happen, and Young Life itself is still going, but just that area that had its problems. I mean, that's been tackled with. It's behind its history now, but and she no longer lives in that area, and she's moving on to a different phase in life. And so, yeah, right now she's got a preschool work, and that kind of goes with networking. She talked to people and said she was looking for work, and she talked about how she's had a teaching degree, and now someone says, "Well, I'm looking to do a preschool. Would you help me be my aide in teaching preschoolers?" She said, "Sure." They got along, and so now today she's teaching preschool as her part-time job, on top of being a mom of toddlers or preschoolers at this point. So how my parents found work. What's interesting, my mom wanted to do teaching, but she did do teaching for a little while, but it never really caught on for her. And so now she's working with my dad as a painting contractor. And for a variety of reasons, when you work with family, there's not so many laws that say you don't have to have workman's comp, you don't have to have all these things. You kind of come and go as you please. You get a ride together, so you're not paying for two cars to make a commute somewhere. You're just all in the same car. There's a lot of benefits to families working together. But for my raising up, most of the time they worked apart. So my mom first worked at an Italian restaurant, which is where both my parents met each other. And they had the same job, enjoyed working with each other, and liked being with each other outside of work. And so they got married. You can say finding a job is also kind of like finding a spouse. There's a lot of similar approaches. But anyways, for my mom, and once she was done with that job, I think why she had to quit is because she had kids as well. So she was at home with my sister and I when we were little, and then she ended up working at a steakhouse, and so she flipped steaks in the evenings for 14 years, and then that's when she moved on to teaching job. She's like, I'm ready for something different. Now she loves cooking, but she doesn't. She wanted to do something she find more joy in. So, but like I said, my parents enjoy working together, and so they're working with each other today. My dad's a painting contractor, so he paints houses mostly, and she does too. So she tends to lean more towards the prep work and masking and things like that. But overall, when it comes to trim work and fine detail, she's really good at that too. And how my dad found painting is the owner of that Italian restaurant told him, you're having a family now, and working at a restaurant is probably not going to pay the bills for having a family. So you need to find some better work to do. And he was kind enough to actually find a few people he knew that was willing to take my dad aside and just try the work and see what kind of work he'd enjoyed most. And of it all, he enjoyed painting. So he worked for someone else for painting for a while. And then once he realized, you know what, not only do I know how to do this, kind of tired of working for someone else, I'm ready to go out on my own. He took the leap, went out on his own, and was very successful. So a lot of that was based on networking, which we'll actually get into the next section here. So then the next section after this section. So what I have next is take classes and get a degree. I know that was kind of presented to me. You're smart, you should get a degree, and whatever you think you'd be good at, and you'll have a job and be set for life. But what I found and what my peers have found, and I'm finding out even someone else who said they graduated in 2000 have found is that getting a degree isn't necessarily everything. And in fact, in some ways, you might be okay with doing the classwork at school, but once you get out into the field, you may find that that type of work is no longer needed. Like what happened with my civil engineering, you may find out that the work wasn't as great as what you hoped for. Or another aspect is that the cost of the education never panned out to be worth what you get paid. And so every kind of school is different. And everyone, how they handle and pay for school is different. But it sounds like in the 70s, people were able to go to school with a part-time job and have everything paid off. But now it's probably, unless you know how to do business work and make thousands of dollars in a month part-time on top of going to school, you're most likely going to come out with student loans unless you have all kinds of scholarships and grants to help you along. And a lot of times there are scholarships and grants to help you go along one way or another. The schools are great at making sure that people get the connections for that. But now for me, like I said, what I've done is probably try to find the work I'd enjoy doing most and go from there. From what I understand right now, a lot of the trades, you could call painting a trade. I know some of it do require some education, so such as being an electrician. You can't just go out and say, I'm going to put wires in your house. You actually have to know what you're doing and pass some testing for that and perhaps get some education. But from what I hear, the education's pretty simple. That's in the 1 to 2 year training. Then you can go out and do electricity work. But again, that's a different approach than saying, well, I'm going to go get a bachelor's for that type of electrical work. And the nice thing about if you do find something of the trades is that you get out in the work force sooner, a lot of time, and you're getting paid well. Or if you're looking for that master's degree or a PhD, well, that means that's 12 years of not working. And on top of you got the rest of your life to live and build your wealth on top. And so that's where the last class kind of comes in. If you remember, he talked about how if you start saving now and building up assets early, and for the long run, you can actually have quite a bit of a chunk of change to retire on or to work with in the end. You can have quite a foundation where if you, you spend all this money going to school, well, now you got debt and now you have a shorter amount of time to live your life and try to build a home for yourself so that you're not bumming off the parents or anything like that. So it's what I'd recommend today is to even probably try the trades before you get into school, because sometimes people don't even really figure out what they want until later. One suggestion that has been presented to me in a psychology class was that sometimes people don't really know what they want until they're the age of 24, which if you're to go directly from high school to college, that would be 6 years into college till you finally realize what you want to do. Now, of course, the older you get, the harder it is to do school and you're already in a routine. And a lot of times once you're out of school and if you're living your life, you're already spending all kinds of money. Or if you're not used to having money, then you're used to not spending it and not having that. But at the same time, I hope you don't go into school for 6 years realizing that you don't want to do anything that requires a degree, then going into work with this that you didn't even need to carry and accumulate in the first place. So, there's pros and cons to everything. I know one person suggested to me what the community schools have is called a intersegmental general education transfer curriculum, NIGETC. And I believe that's just a California thing. I'd have to see what the other states have. But the idea is for any kind of bachelor's degree is your first 2 years of education is just general ed. So psychology, English, math, and things like that. And then your second 2 years is specifically focused toward the trade that you're hoping to learn. So the idea is by having that degree, so you can go to community college, say, I got my general education, now I'm ready to go to a UC campus, which costs more money to go to. But I'm ready, I got my trade picked out at this point, and I'm ready to finish my 2 years at this whatever campus. It says a UC campus, a University of California campus. And so that's one option there of going into high school, at least getting some education, learning how to think and reason better. I mean, all those things are fantastic. Or perhaps get your skills up to college level. That's one thing I had to work with from high school to college is I had to take a few extra classes to get myself college level ready. But all that was appreciative. I think if I knew what I kind of wanted for and I had a bigger drive for it, got more excited about it, finishing those classes and completing them wouldn't have been quite an issue. Right. And like I said, I've taken a handful of those tests, but none of those really excited me. I think one of them I'm pretty sure I remember it said I was going to be a teacher. And like, yeah, but I didn't like school. So to me, that didn't make sense. But see, right? Yeah, so it was just finding the right kind of teacher of what would work for me. Kind of like my wife. She kind of enjoys teaching, but she'd rather do church teaching work rather than the basics of math and English. So again, she'll do it, but it's not her go-to thing. So what time we got here? So I don't know. We kind of started a little bit late. I don't think I have too much. I guess it depends how much you want to get into the resume. But the next thing here is networking. So suggestions from Reddit. So when you're looking for work, this is what people added to confirm what I already think is helpful. But when you're networking with others, be polite, friendly, and helpful to your coworkers. The person said, I'm a friendly person in general, and this goes a long way in networking. People will remember, hey, I really liked working with that guy, and I want to do it again. So again, whether you're looking to do better in the industry that you're working in already, or you're just looking for work, hopefully whatever work you do find that you enjoy being around the people there. I think another thing, the next one says, make work friends if you can. I know this goes against some common beliefs of I'm just here to do a job, but let's be real. Your buddies will always want to work with you in the future. And so again, just because I'm good with math and can draft paperwork, can draft people's property boundaries for a living, if I'm not getting along with the communities of other people who also do that, it's probably not going to go very well as a long-term career. Now, it is interesting, if I mentioned moving to Texas. If I move to Texas, would I have a relationship with the people there than here in California or Arkansas or whatever, Oklahoma? That's always a good question. It's interesting how I learned that civil engineers, a lot of people mentioned it when I was looking for kinds of work. They said it's great money, which it is, but what I noticed the people there is it's almost kind of like, I don't want to say a pirate, but I have a lack of a better understanding. It's people who like going to places, not really knowing what they're getting into and looking into using technology to draft and survey the land. And it's kind of like a little bit of a treasure hunt. You're trying to find these points that are already marked on the ground to determine what elevation something is and where that point is on planet Earth. And by doing that, you can figure out the rest of the points of the property boundaries and everything you're supposed to draft. And so, like I said, it's kind of like a pirate and going on a treasure hunt. It's really what it is. And I was never able to characterize as this guy who loves an adventure, searching for treasure. Like I said, I'll do the work, but that wasn't that wasn't my persona. I don't know if there's going to be any civil engineers looking at this and saying if I'm on the mark or missing the mark completely, but nevertheless, that was my impression. So, like I said, whatever work you want to do, try to be around them as early as you can. The next point in here is take the helpfulness outside of the job. I met people at conventions that I connected a lot with on LinkedIn and have helped them with resumes and career advice, and that means a lot to people. I think there's supposed to be a period there. I'll add that in. So a couple of things there. So this person talks about just trying new things, such as going to conventions. I know in software, when I was looking at that a little bit, you can go to conventions and just find types of, I guess, software or programs you do like working with and want to enjoy working with them more. And so when you go there and you see a bunch of people there, even though there's a whole bunch of people there just saying hi, what do you do for a living, with the people you sit next to. I mean, people are there designed to network. You're there to learn not only material, but also the businesses and the people that are around there that are also in the business. And who knows, maybe you find someone that you really enjoy talking to and you might go into business together. What I learned is software is more contract work. You're not expected to go in any type of business for a long period of time, because once the software is built, for the most part, it tends to be time to move on because there's no more work for you to do. But by doing that job, you oftentimes learn a new aspect of software development, and you have that to add to your resume. So when you go look for work, you already know how to do the job, and you can find work somewhere else. So another thing is here is find a community group, such as a sport or a hobby that you can attend regularly. And so again, let's talk about finding friends and seeing what kind of work they do, and hopefully you really do care about them, because that's the next point here. Remember, it's a two-way street. You can't just take, you also have to offer things. And so hopefully, like say you enjoy using some software and you want to work for that software company, maybe you could offer, well, this is how I found this software helpful and why it's better than others. And maybe there's maybe use the software your own self and you hope to make it better in a certain way. I guess with Microsoft, I never had the desire to make the software better. There is just, people say all the time the software could be better for like the operating system and the Office program, but for me personally, I had no idea where to start. And maybe by getting into it, I would have, but I think just helping people, human services technically is also in pastoral work, was what I'd rather put my effort towards. Now, sure, there's programming and software that'll help people do better, but I just never found that community. The next section here is suggestions from my wife. I asked her, so what do you think about professional networking and what do you have to offer? And she said to write a thank you note after an interview, just to state that you appreciate them and take the time they took the time to interview you and even possibly consider them for the company. So whether they knew the person beforehand, they knew you beforehand, or they just, you filled something out online and they just said, sure, why not? Why not try to interview this person? You overall, she said, sometimes what helps is to make you have the pick is that you went the extra step to write a thank you, appreciating their time. Again, that goes in a two-way street thing. You don't just take saying, I need money. How are you going to help me get it? You say, well, I know that you took time out of your busy day to consider working with me and consider me work for the company. I appreciate it. So what else? This must be another point from somewhere. There are people you're going to get along with, and there are people you aren't going to get along with. I hope you find a community you will get along with. Okay, so that was my takeaway point of all this. Whatever you do for work, I hope that whatever work you do, you can feel accomplished when you come home. You feel good that you were good around a good community of people towards the end, on the business end, or the people whether you're doing sales to. I know retail, it's basically sales for someone else. So people you sell to, whatever it is, the type of people who are working with, like with candy, it's hard to be around grumpy people with candy. Usually everyone's excited to be a kid in a candy store. So unless you hate being youthful and you don't like messes and you don't like kids, well, then I guess that's not the place for you. But for me, I enjoyed it. And so maybe that's why I enjoy my kids today. I enjoy the messes. I enjoy I enjoy uh, the just playful environment. So so there's that. I guess the work today, like I said, I like to enjoy helping people. When I just growing up, I remember there's not a whole lot of people know about what being a Christian is all about and why I still think it's important today. I know a lot of people think the church is dated, but I don't. For me, I didn't necessarily grow up in a dynamic, exciting church to be a part of in the first place. And so when my parents found a dynamic and an exciting church to be a part of, I learned, I was like, well, why doesn't everyone want to be a part of this? And I've learned a lot of reasons why, and there's a whole lot of layers to work through. And that's what the next class is about. Well, not next class, 2 classes is about, is faith. And so why I see that important. And I plan to have Pastor James from here in town and join me in conversation with that. So, so I guess I'll just go right along here. We're trying to get into the final details. So resume, I want to say I'm running towards the end of time. So I attached a sample resume on the back. They pretty much said use the same font. Depending on the type of work and what your experience is the order of things you'll list. And so maybe your skills is better than the companies you work for if you're changing careers. If you've been a part of if you're in the same career, then maybe you want to put your company names first and saying, look, this is the amazing company I worked with in the past. Welcome to contact the work I did. And things like that. Although, will they contact them? From what I understand, a person who looking at your resume is probably only going to look at it for 30 seconds to consider them because they've got to move on to the others and they've got to get on with their job. And so hopefully, however you present your best assets of what you can do with the company, that would be great. I mentioned whatever it is for that company. So if you have, say, you're still trying to figure out what you want to do and you're applying to a software company on one end, and then you're applying to a general contractor to another, they're someone who works with houses and then someone who works with computers, kind of 2 completely different jobs. You're going to want your resume to look differently for different industries as you're as you're trying to market a different skill set to the different type of job you're looking for. Of course, it takes more time, but again, if you look like a software engineer applying to a general contract job, they'll probably be like, why are you even applying here? I don't understand. What is it that's taking you on this turn? And why are you picking me to help you make that turn? So a lot of questions. And so that's where the networking kicks in. Because if the person already knows you before the job and thinks you can handle it, well, then this resume is kind of not needed. I mean, maybe they might want it, they might not. It really depends. It really depends. So under this, so I got that template from sheetsresume.com. several. I got that from the video below that, how to recommend a resume and fill it out. So you just take 6 minutes, 7 minutes to go through how to make a resume and make it clean. For me, it takes forever to put together, but once it's done, then you have something to present to someone else. Again, I think before you even have a resume, you got to figure out what you want and what kind of work you want to do. Uh, I'm trying to figure out how to put asking for a raise in here. I guess I just have to attach it at the end. Final thoughts. I found that's spelled checked wrong. LinkedIn. It's supposed to be one word. I found LinkedIn is probably great for contract work and probably more in the business world. So say you're a public speaker and you want to continue doing public speaking work for different companies, having a great LinkedIn profile. So it's pretty much like an online resume. And the nice thing about online is that it's not restricted to a sheet of paper. You probably don't want too much information on there if it's all over the place. You want it focused on the work you enjoy doing. But it's pretty much an online resume, and you can easily share it with someone else. You can email it to someone, and you don't have to worry about PDFs and Word formatting and all that. It's just all right there, and it's free and it's great. Of course, Google whatever kind of work you want to do for employment. It's a great way to start. Spend time with business owners. If someone who you want to be a business owner, go find them and talk to them. Call a company and say, I want to learn what you do. You can tell them, I don't need money, but I like what I see and I'm wanting to learn more about what you do. I'm sure there'd be nothing flattering for a person to hear. I think you do great at your work. I like to see if there's things of what you do that could benefit me and my career plan. So I got it. Click on this one. And so what I did find that this county does have a good resource on is a job training center. It's based in Red Bluff, but I know they had a training, like a jobs fair type thing not too long ago, maybe a couple of weeks ago. It's October now. And in the middle of September, they had this event, and I thought it was great. They pretty much have everything that is recommended on here. So they'll help you find a job. They'll help you build your resume. They'll have resources to help you get your game going, and people could consult with you. That's from what I understand. Yes. Yeah, it is. And so I put the link to that. It's called jobtrainingcenter.org. I put a link to that in the notes here. So I think that's a fantastic resource. Again, I hope before you go in there, you want to know what you do, or else if you're just looking for work, which I've done that before. I'm looking for work. Well, what do you want to do? Well, I don't know. What do you got? I know Walmart will take anyone who doesn't know what they want to do. That's that kind of type of people they're looking for. If you know what you want to do, then you're probably not going to be hired by Walmart unless that's what you want to do. It's be working at Walmart. But everyone I've seen that gets hired by Walmart and gets passed through and seeing that works there, I could tell they not only they not know what they want to do for work, they probably don't want to work. And so I wish them the but right. So and work shouldn't be a dirty 4-letter word. It should be something people enjoy. Some people don't get the chance to do that because they, I don't know, start a family before they even have a job or things like that. And there's all kinds of things, or they think they have a good job, but then they get tired of it, or life happens. There's more in life than work. But I remember being told, if you do what you love, then it feels like you never have to work in a day. And so she, all right, and all right, all right. There's some things truth be told, I don't care for being stuck in the cubicle all day. But there's a whole lot of paperwork that goes involved with putting this together now, getting resources organized, preparing for Bible studies, preparing for Sunday worship. I probably spend like 15 hours a week preparing for a 1 hour worship service. I mean, it sounds ridiculous. But at the same time, if I was figuring that all out while people were here, people would say, well, obviously this guy didn't do his work and we're not prepared and I'm ready to go home. So, yeah, people want that presentation, if you will. It's not supposed to be a presentation, it's supposed to be a community thing, but overall I'm delivering the presentation for the whole hour. And it's between here and Willows. And so I got to make sure it works in both towns. So, and in between all that and that spare time, connect with the people and the parishioners, make sure everyone's doing okay, which usually they are. Overall, this is kind of a nice area where a little bit of that small town feel where people look out for each other. So with that, I asked for a raise. I heard asking for a raise just before the weekend, towards the end of the hours of the workday is best. When it, just before the weekend, towards the end of the day, because they're kind of wanting to be done with their work, and they kind of have to make a decision easily. It's not something that everyone can just go on their weekend. Usually people have the weekends off. People can just go on their weekend and enjoy their week work. And usually by the time they get back, then they've had time to think about it. They don't think they've had to make that decision right away. And usually people don't feel so burdened at that time. And so they won't forget about it because it's the end of the week. Right. So, and just go up to them and ask for it. And then you could ask, say, reason why, I've been receiving the same pay. I think I could do a better job, or maybe you have, I heard this, it's for people in my type of work, this is the kind of amount they get paid. Is there, could I get a raise, or if not, what would it take for me to get a raise? I think that'd be another question too. Some businesses, it doesn't matter how much you ask, they're going to give you the same amount no matter what. But other businesses, I imagine the more smaller ones and the more personal ones, they probably never thought about giving you a raise. It's just things are working, and so why even bother giving you a raise? Then they forget that things been increasing by 7% over the last 7 years. That they need to take care of their workers. So that'd be my suggestion. Just as long as you're confident about it and proactive and willing to take a no, but happy to take a yes, I find no harm in asking. But of course, if you're going to whine about it, and if you get a no, or try to act like you deserve a raise, and if you're going to be pushy about it or manipulative about it, well then that's not the approach. You should have and just make an offer. And hey, this sounds like a good idea to me. Does it sound like a good idea to you? type of attitude. That'd be my suggestion. I have done that a few times, and a lot of times I did get the raise. Sometimes it wasn't as much as I wanted, but you know what? I got a raise, and at the time, for those things I was working with, I wasn't too picky. I really wasn't. So you could say I'm not that picky today, but that is it. Administrate's a whole nother work. It's salary, which is interesting. I could work all the hours I want, I still get paid the same. So
The prune company.
Mhm.
So I yeah.
Mhm.
Probably they would hire. So I went, because all through my married life, I wasn't expected to work outside.
Right.
So I went, fill out the application, sure I was gonna get a job.
All right.
Job,
Uh,
yeah. I don't know what it was, and my son said they had some people coming from Anderson. Who were taking positions or whatever.
Huh.
It's just
All right.
it's- well, good work.
All right.
Job.
All right. And that's happened to me a few times too. I'm like, I'm sure I'm qualified to do this type of work. You know, I like computers. Why can't I get hired at this computer store? That was another thing. It's just like I don't get it. But I think it was just the type of personality that they were looking for wasn't what I had. So I think I'm probably a little bit more entrepreneurial in um, my way of working, and so doing things your own way is not necessarily what businesses want. They want things, they want you to do things their way. So, um, anyways,
School. So a couple of my sons, they're like that. They don't want to work for someone else, you know.
right, right, which is fine as long as you do it right. But I hope you find others who think the same thing and could enjoy, um, learning from each other and working independently. Well, this is what worked for me. What worked for you? Or this is what didn't work for me. What would you have done? Type of thing. So, all right. Not really this time. I thank you for joining me this evening, and um, and I hope this class was a benefit for you.